My name is Emma. I grew up in a quiet village surrounded by green fields, blooming flowers, and people who knew the value of simplicity. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was peaceful. I used to spend my mornings helping my grandmother in the kitchen and afternoons wandering through the fields, picking wildflowers, and dreaming of a future where kindness ruled over everything. I was 18 years old when everything changed. One morning, at the village market, I felt someone watching me. When I looked up, there he was, tall, dressed in an expensive suit, leaning against a shiny black car. He looked completely out of place in our rustic town. His name was Richard. He was from the city and was visiting for some land business. At least, that's what he said. He smiled at me. Not just politely, but with a kind of attention that felt new and strange. Over the next few days, he began showing up often. Buying groceries he didn't need. Asking villagers about me. Complimenting my innocence, my simplicity. I had never been courted before. I didn't understand what it meant when someone looked at you like you were the center of their universe. My grandmother warned me, city men bring city games, Emma. Don't let the glitter blind you. But I was young. And he was charming. After just 3 weeks, he came to our home with his proposal. He wanted to marry me. My grandmother hesitated, but the village women whispered, "She's lucky. Look at him, he'll take care of her. A rich husband is a blessing." We were poor. I didn't dream of a palace, but the idea of being loved. That was all I ever wanted. The wedding was quick. A small village ceremony. He promised he'd take me to the city and give me everything I had never dreamed of. I left the only home I ever knew, holding tightly onto his hand, believing he was the beginning of my fairy tale. But fairy tales are fiction. The mansion was cold. Not just in bricks and stone, but in spirit. Servants spoke in whispers. I wasn't allowed to go out alone. My phone was taken. Richard's mother gave me a look I can only describe as disgust the first time she saw me. He didn't talk to me much. He was always busy or tired. Days passed. Then weeks. I began to feel like a ghost in a golden cage. Then came the first slap. It was a small disagreement. I asked if I could send a letter to my grandmother. He stared at me, cold, and said, "You don't need anyone but me." I protested gently. The slap came without warning. I remember the silence after it. My cheek burned, but my heart? It shattered. I stared at the man I had married, searching for the one who had smiled at me in the market. He was gone. What followed was a series of unending emotional and physical abuse. He would control everything. He monitored my meals, my clothes, my words. He said I embarrassed him with my village habits. He humiliated me in front of guests, then whispered fake apologies in private. Some nights, I would cry silently into my pillow, praying for morning light. Others, I would look out the window, wondering if running away would bring freedom or more punishment. But I stayed. Out of fear. Out of hope. Out of the belief that maybe, just maybe, he would change. He didn't. The worst moment came one afternoon when I collapsed in the kitchen. The housemaid found me and called a doctor. I was malnourished, exhausted, and mentally broken. Even then, Richard scolded me for embarrassing him. That night, I looked into the mirror. My reflection scared me. The sparkle in my eyes was gone. The girl who used to laugh at butterflies was now afraid of her own shadow. I whispered to myself, "You are Emma. You were not born for this." The next morning, while he was away on a business trip, I packed a small bag, took what little money I had hidden in a book, and I left. I went to a women's shelter far away, in a different city. They welcomed me, listened to me, held my hand as I told them everything. For the first time in a long time, someone believed me. Over the months, I healed slowly. I began writing, working part-time at a bookstore. I learned how to live again. One day, I wrote this story, because I know there are other girls like me, sweet, innocent, and fooled by the promise of love. Girls who need to hear this. Love does not hurt. Control is not care. And no one deserves to suffer in silence. I am Emma. And I am free now. And that is my truth.